our VTA Board of Directors workshop and special meeting.
Present. Here.
Present.
Here. Present. Here.
Present. Here. Great, thank you so much. So we're going to go move right now to public comments. We have 3 public comments. Each person will get 2 minutes to speak, and you can come up to this open microphone. And these are to speak on items that are not on the agenda, but within the purview of our committee. So I'll begin with Chris Ariola, followed by Roland LeBron, followed by Christine Fitzgerald. Welcome.
Hello, happy Friday. I'm Chris Ariola. I am a Deputy District Attorney, and I'm here on behalf of the District Attorney to let you know that we're very much in support of considering free bus passes for youth in Santa Clara County. We know it's been done in other jurisdictions. We think it's a public safety issue. It's a transportation issue now for most school districts who don't have bus service, and I think most of you are aware that in some way or another of problems we've seen. Additionally, from what we've seen, the county, the city, Parks and Rec, the different school districts spend a lot of money buying bus passes for children they're required to in programs, special education, etc., or with IEPs. But perhaps we, as a group, I'd hope you would at some point be willing to consider the fact that other jurisdictions such as San Francisco have offered free bus ridership for youth, and we think this will improve public safety greatly by allowing children to reach their drug treatment programs, foster kids, kids on probation, and kids who need to transfer schools for whatever reason or don't have transportation with their parents. And so we would, we've talked to the Supervisor Chavez about this, and Nuria has been kind enough to discuss this as well as Mr. Licardo. And I think if you go to the Juvenile Justice Systems Partners, you're going to find a uniform agreement that at the very least this should be seriously considered. And lastly, I think as a policy matter, it would encourage young people to take up ridership of the transit system and in the future be paying customers. So if there, I know you can't ask me questions, but thank you for your time, and we'll be following this and hope that we can work out something with VTA. And I would add that Nuria's staff, who we've discussed this with, have been very supportive, so thank you.
Good afternoon. So, as usual, I got some good news and not so good news. The good news is that we now have cross-platform transfers at the convention. For the first time ever in 20 years, we've actually got something that resembles a network. So I'd like to thank everybody, in particular, for that. On the not-so-good news front is that last night, as I got off Caltrain, neither the Winchester line nor the Dash waited for Caltrain. The end result is that I had to walk to the Children's Discovery Museum. That was the only way for me to get back onto the light rail. And this is getting old, and to be frank with you, when it starts raining, I'm going back to driving. But the thing I really want to talk about today is what's going on at Tamian, and we have a problem over there. VTA's new motto is solutions that move people, and I come from IBM, so I know what moving people means. In my case, it's from one continent to another, and where I come from, we call that displacement. It's not transportation. And what's going on at Tamian is that we essentially displacing 75 toddlers, a whole bunch of parents, including single parent families, and I've recently discovered dozens of jobs. And it's an issue, we need to address this. So he's gone now, but I'd like to reach out to Mayor Licardo and San Jose City Council and ask us to help us out. On the parking front, what I'm asking is that you delay building the soccer field until we've relocated the parking, because otherwise I have absolutely no way whatsoever for people to be able to park at Tamian. The other thing I'm asking for is regards to the child care center. It's a very, very serious issue. So I would like the mayor and the city council consider using what was the prior location of the rocket ship school and maybe having the child care center there. Thank you very much.
Our last speaker is Christine.
People have got my back all over the place. And to start with full disclosure, I am the community advocate at Silicon Valley Independent Living Center. I also serve on the Committee for Transit Access here at VTA. I am majorly concerned with this transition between outreach and MV. I was very dismayed about the situation that came up, and it made us really pause when all of this took place. And what I found most interesting about this is it was only 2 days after all of this took place that I got the emergency auto response phone call stating what was happening, why it was happening, where to call. But because I picked up the message did not repeat. 1, and 2, there was no way for me, because I have a visual disability, to retrieve the information. As you work through this process, I would like to plead with all of you to consider all of us who take paratransit on a regular basis, even in an infrequent basis. Our lives depend on this door-to-door service, whether it's outreach, VTA, or MV, or whoever comes in next. Please make sure that all the ducks are in a row. In other words, you have the regular 9 to 5 call-in numbers and various numbers, not just one, for accounting, etc., that you have after-hours numbers, and that you return an after-hours number to the mix for weekend schedule, i.e. Sunday. When I was listening to this information the other day, I noticed that you had Monday through Friday set at one schedule, Saturday at a shorter schedule, and nothing for Sunday. Are we expected to stay home on Sunday? If so, that is not fair, because the whole area is able to transport by bus to and from wherever they want to go on Sundays, unless there's not a route on that day. Please, as you go through this process, and yes, on the CTA, we are of course going to review the various RFPs that come through. I would strongly consider making sure you have everything lined up. Okay?
Thank you very much for your comments, and I'm certain staff has heard you, and and I see you have someone sitting right next to you who's ready to hear more, but thank you very much for your feedback. I apologize, we have one more speaker that I want to invite up, and that's Jim Landowski. Welcome.
Oh, I have 2 ideas how to improve the VTA. First is a short term in a few months to eliminate all the schedules, have continuous driving, so there's no stopping. They keep driving, and so there's just a continuous flow of buses. And then the long-term plan is to eliminate most of the buses except for 22 and 23, the long-haul rides, and then have Uber-type drivers for the rest of the buses. So you convert the bus drivers into access drivers, which is the plan she's talking about. And then, so they're continuously driving around. And then when you want to ride, you tap your phone like an Uber rider. And So basically, convert the bus system over to a Uber type system.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Lewandowski. We have one more speaker, and that's David Grady. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. My name is David Grady. I'm with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities for this region, Central Coast and Central Coast. I'm here also for the same reasons my friend is over there who's with the ILC regarding paratransit. Couple of things. One, with the recent circumstances, there's a tremendous amount of anecdotal reports coming to me about delays in service, people held waiting, and this phone call issue. And as you consider this routing needs of our of VTA, this weekend travel issue is a major concern for those with developmental disabilities and who are needing to use paratransit services. Sunday is a day of for all people, including those with disabilities. And when routes are changed and services are no longer available, access to churches or other community activities are reduced. So as you make your considerations, please keep in mind those who use paratransit and have perhaps have alternatives for them if your decisions preclude them from routing situations that the Americans with Disabilities Act allowances are considered. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for being here. And what I will say is that we will have staff follow up on this issue. We can't engage in it because it's not agendized today, but staff will follow up. And I'm going to ask the staff if you could copy the board on the response to the issues relative to the time that service is available. Okay? Thank you. So we're going to move on. Now, I just want to say to my colleagues, we have two presentations today. And just as a big picture, we're going to be focused on item 3.1, and that item is to direct staff to design a transit network employing an 85-15 balance between ridership purposed and coverage purpose services. How we're going to go through this, if you're all okay with it, is Mr. Walker is going to make a presentation that will be about 40 minutes in length. 40 minutes in length, so everybody get comfy. And then the VTA staff has additional information to give us that is about 10 minutes. I'm going to ask if it's okay if we can let the staff go through all of it. The only time I would prefer interruptions if you need clarifying information. But otherwise, if we can, just let the staff roll through it, and then we'll go to questions and comments from all of us. I'm sorry, then we're going to go to the public, get some public testimony, and then questions and discussions from the board. Is that all right, everybody? All right. Mr. Walker. Oh, actually, Nuria.
Yeah.
She's kicking us off.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon. And I want to thank all of you for being here. This is a very important discussion that we're about to embark on. I just want to take you back a couple years. We held a similar workshop, and at that time, I shared with you all the opportunities that we have as a county with all of the growth, the jobs that were coming into our county, and looking at the economic development as a result of that, to take a step back and look at our entire transportation network. We know that 80% of the trips within our county are trips that are generated by people who live here, work here. But we also have a lot of what we call the mega commuters that are coming from a farther distance into our county. And our existing arterial structure, both the highways and freeways and roads, and then looking at our public transportation, pedestrian and bicycle paths, form an integrated, holistic part of that network. And what we're going to be discussing today is how do we enhance the public transportation, and to ensure that we can continue build our ridership, but looking at what the impact is of this economic prosperity when we continue to have congestion. There are several factors, several elements that we have been working on within this process for quite some time. I just want to touch very quickly on a couple of them. One, we embarked on the Envision Silicon Valley, which gave us an opportunity to engage with the public, get a better sense from our stakeholders what some of the challenges, concerns were, and start to factor in some opportunities and solutions that would address that. And that resulted in the support of the county with the ballot measure that was just passed last Tuesday. In addition to that, we have been working on our strategic plan that's going to help inform and start to model the budget that we're also going to be embarking in the early part of this coming year. It's a biennial budget, and it's really going to start funding those decisions that are priority to the county, to the organization, to our network. And then just to sum that up, I want to say that I also recognize that ridership is an issue. It has been flat. The economy is growing here, but the ridership on public transportation has been pretty flat. And I introduced the notion of putting together a transit ridership improvement program. I presented that to the board, that idea, and that idea has evolved now in what we call our next network. And in order to better understand what we have and how we can improve on it, I reached out to Jared Walker, who is going to be speaking to you shortly. But Jared is a recognized international transit expert, and he is not only familiar with the Bay Area, but of course have had the opportunity to help other cities like ours that are at a crossroads trying to figure out what to do with what they have in terms of mobility assets, and how to better apply them so we can be responsive to the residents here who are all looking for opportunities. It's all about the providing solutions, and not just solutions that are based on the assets that we have, but solutions that give our riders the opportunities to do what they want to do when they want to do it. I think that there's a need to have a stronger look how we can better enhance our existing network. And over the next few minutes, you're going to hear about the journey that we undertook under Jared Walker's aegis, and some of the feedback that we received from the multiple focus groups and working groups and outreach sessions that were held these past few months. So with that, I would like to, and then once again, I would like to thank you all for being here. I would like to thank all of the members of the board for being here to participate and contribute and help us better understand what your desires are. And what we are hoping to do at the end of this presentation is to seek your direction on which of these options that are going to be reviewed we should be pursuing. And that way the staff can get busy working. We have a recommendation, but we certainly want to be open to all of the options that were reviewed and seeking your guidance on the next steps.
Great. All right, now it really is you.
Thank you very much, Chair and members of the board. You'll recall, I think all of you were there, you'll recall that back in the spring, I had about 2 hours with you, and we really laid out the context of what this piece of work was going to be about and the choice that was going to come back to you. And the choice comes back to you this afternoon. So I want to take the time to review some of that presentation to make sure that we all have the same understanding of the trade-off, and to also then fill you in more about what we've done since then, the public conversations that have occurred, so that you have the full benefit of the advice that's coming back to you from various points of view, such as it is. So the big board action today will be how to divide resources between ridership and coverage goals. I will also raise the whole question of how Measure B's passage may or may not change how we want to think about this. Those things may be interconnected or they may not. That's kind of up to you. A quick review of the timeline and where we are now. Back in March, I was presenting to you a choices report, I think in April, which sort of laid out the philosophical context. And then in April 7th, we released the alternative network concepts, which are before you and which I'll review again today. we had outreach on these concepts all through summer and fall, and today we're at the point of board direction on them. The next thing that happens is that the recommended draft 17 network, the network to go in when BART opens essentially in late 2017, is released. You'll be briefed on it, of course, and I'll be back in early January to brief you on it. And then outreach on that plan goes on for a couple of months, and the final recommendation in response to that outreach is put together in March, comes back to you in April. That gives staff the 6 months they need from the plan being adopted to the plan being put on the street. You know, there's quite a bit of lead time in all the things they have to do. So the ridership coverage trade-off. So let me just bring it back to the sort of basic issue. In any sort of, this is a simple fictional town where a dot represents a person or a job. And so in this particular fictional town, you see lots and lots of people concentrated along 2 straight streets, and then you have lots of people scattered about in other parts of the town. And if I'm asked to take 18 buses, say, and design a network for this town, I have to ask with what goal? Because depending on the goal, I'll do very different things. If the goal is ridership, what I would do is concentrate my service where the demand is highest, which is where we have all of that density and also where I can run in simple linear paths. So you see I would put all the buses on those major streets. That's called a frequent network. And it is repeatedly proven to be the most productive thing you can do in terms of ridership over cost in the design of an urban transit network. So this gives you that payoff of productivity, which is ridership relative to cost. On the other hand, if you propose this, people who live in the southeast corner of this map are not going to be happy with that. And there are a lot of other reasons why we want to run a little bit of service everywhere to make sure everyone has something, but that's a different and opposite goal. That's a coverage goal. So if your choice is that you want some service for everyone, a little bit of service everywhere, then you tell me to do this. I have 10 lines instead of 2, which means the buses aren't nearly as frequent because I've spread them across such a large area. Because the buses aren't very frequent, they aren't very useful, and therefore ridership is much lower. That's basically how that plays out. So it's important to understand that when you're running low-demand coverage service, you're running it for a non-ridership reason. And your performance measure shouldn't even be ridership. What you're really doing is providing availability. It is the availability of the service that kind of is its purpose. And inevitably you will hear public comment that is not defending a particular bus, not because lots of people use it, but because the people who use it really need it. And that's one of the standard reasons that we end up with coverage services. And it's not good or bad. It's just to observe that these are competing goals. So when you think about these competing goals, a number of different things that people value about transit are related to one of these goals or the other. So when you think about the ridership goal, which you can imagine as being something like thinking like a business on the one hand, a business chooses which markets it will enter based on where it thinks it will succeed. It does not feel obligated to provide its product where it doesn't think there's a market. That goal also leads to supporting dense and walkable development because that kind of development tends to generate a lot of ridership. So it's a sensible thing to do from a ridership standpoint. And all of the environmental benefits of transit, maximum competition with cars, reduction of vehicle miles traveled, all the things that means in terms of benefits like emissions or congestion mitigation, those all come from high ridership. Those all come from people riding transit, not just transit existing. But on the other side, the coverage goal, it's difficult to say no to a goal like access for all or include everyone. And of course, so that's really where coverage begins. It tends to be supportive of more suburban styles of low density development where high ridership service would tend not to go. It's very important as a lifeline, that the concern about lifeline access for people with not many choices who may be scattered anywhere in the entire county, our region. And of course, then sometimes there are issues of political equity, how service, whether every member city is getting its share of service, whether a council district is getting its share of service, that also tends to lead us to spread service out rather than to concentrate it in the way that a high ridership plan would do. So, given that these goals are opposite, it's not that one is right or wrong, but you do have to give staff some sense of what they should be trying to do. And if you just tell them that you want both, it's like telling your taxi driver to turn left and right at the same time. It's not going to work, and it's hard on the taxi driver, and you're not going to be happy with the results either. And that's sort of fundamentally the challenge before you. So the existing system is about 70% justified by ridership goals. About 70% is in those high-frequency, successful services focused on places of high demand that are dense and walkable. And about 30% is not. About 30% is what we would call coverage service. It's running in low-density areas. It's running in areas where walkability is difficult. It's running in areas where there are obvious barriers, so that we as professionals do not believe that you will ever have high ridership on those services, relatively speaking, because we can see in the geometry of the neighborhoods being served that it is simply not favorable to that. Low density, poor walkability, those kinds of features. So the question that comes back to you is, here you are at 70%. Would you like to move this point? And you can think of this also as like a pie chart of your total operating budget, which is currently split 70-30. Do you want to move that split to a different point? Now, as you move the split in the direction of ridership, should you choose to do that, you will get a more effective network that will attract more ridership and that will also, I want to emphasize, just be useful to more people for more purposes. On the other hand, that causes existing low ridership services to disappear, and people will be angry about that. And so that's essentially the trade-off for you. And I want to emphasize right from the beginning, I am not going to make any recommendation about this. There's some staff advice about it, but my role is really just to help you be in the presence of the problem and help you figure out what you want on this trade-off. So how did we explore this with the public? What we did was to draw 3 alternative concepts. Based on the preliminary direction we heard that there was an interest in turning the dial toward ridership. So we drew up an improved network that is 70% ridership. Now that's just like the existing network, of course. The only reason it's different is that some other things are changing. BART is appearing, and of course there are redesigns happening around BART. And we're looking also at other ways to streamline and improve things. The network's fairly old, it needed a review. So some things get improved even in Network 70, even though we're not changing the ridership coverage split. But then we did 2 more scenarios that shift, that show what happens if you start turning the dial toward greater ridership, which means away from coverage. So, happened. Hang on. Okay, a couple things. I want to make sure everyone knows that a few things that are not on these maps continue to exist. The VTA Express network, the 100 series routes, which tend to be long one-way runs from park and rides to employment destinations, all of those are still there. I haven't drawn them on the maps because they aren't changing. They aren't really part of the study. The only VTA Express routes that disappear are the ones that currently go up to Fremont BART for obvious reasons that you don't need to go up there anymore now that BART is coming to you. The Caltrain shuttles and ACE shuttles are all still there. You do not want me to draw them all on the same map. It makes the map pretty illegible. So we've really focused the mapping and the conversation on this all-day network of local services. I'll ask you to remember what these colors mean, because these colors mean the same thing all through all of our mapping and all through the project. An orange wide line means frequent and rapid, something like your current 500 series routes, which run frequently and also have a very wide stop spacing. They stop every half mile to 1 mile. So those are the services that are intended for very long trips across the valley. You have an existing one along El Camino. We're proposing a new one along Stevens Creek. Then you have the 3 colors that indicate frequencies of local service. The red line is every 15 minutes, blue means every 30, green means every 60. We have intentionally used the hot colors, orange and red, to denote the high frequency network because we want that to jump out at you on the map. Because it is really the extent of that high frequency network that makes that is what's going to generate the high ridership. Frequency is so powerful for so many reasons, right? It doesn't just mean less waiting. It also means that when 2 routes cross, it's easy to make a connection. You won't wait very long. And that's really the key to what makes a pile of routes start to combine into a network where you can use them to go in many different places. You start to get this incredible multiplier effect once it's easy to make connections. And frequency is the key to making it easy to make connections. So here's your current all-day frequency, and you all have this in your handouts. You have a network right now that is, you look at it at a first glance, it seems very weighted toward the east side of San Jose. There are good reasons for that in terms of ridership, in terms of land use. It is a favorable area for public transit, not just for demographic reasons that you might be thinking of, but just because the shape of the built environment is so favorable. We have a good grid network of streets. We have continuously high density throughout that area. It's been widely observed that the frequent network does not extend very far west, apart from the tendrils of El Camino and Stevens Creek. That's something that the general approach we've been taking to this is to try to take the patterns that are working so well in East San Jose and extend them more broadly across the region. That's important for ridership. It's also important for the social needs that are being met by those services, since East San Jose is not the only place that we have people of significant disadvantage living. But so there's your existing network. Now, when BART comes in, you see the new black line coming down from the north, which is BART, and light rail is also in black. You see then that we get to revise the network quite a bit in response to that, because so many other things are changing due to BART. But this is still what it looks like 70/30. And the thing to notice, if I go back to existing and forward to 70/30, is that the coverage is all still there. We haven't cut anybody's access to service. All the routes are still there that provide a little bit of service to everyone. But as we start turning the dial toward 80 or 90, that service, of course, is going to start disappearing. When we turn the dial toward 80, you'll see that there's suddenly more frequent routes, some very powerful ones like the Bowers, Keeley, Great America Crosstown, like the Winchester line, which now at high frequency flows through the airport all the way out Brokaw to Milpitas BART, so that we have high frequency connections from the airport all the way to BART, not just to light rail. You see other pieces of frequent network appearing, but if you go back and forth, you also see what's disappearing. Lots of the most unproductive routes in nooks and crannies around the area. I want to emphasize, by the way, there's no sort of east-west divide here. Every single city has a coverage route that disappears or a coverage segment that disappears as you start stepping in this direction. So this is what the 80/20 looks like. And then finally, the next step, if you wanted to go beyond that to 90, is this. 80, 90, 80, 90. As you make this change now from 80 to 90, a lot of coverage disappears. And now we have very large gaps in the network. And what remains is almost entirely, after all, 90% motivated by ridership. Almost all that remains is where we expect high ridership. And where we are just providing coverage for non-ridership reasons, the service isn't there. So that's what it means to go to a very high commitment to ridership like what 90/10 recommends. So the question that's ultimately going to come to you today is where you want to be on the spectrum defined by those alternatives. And of course, you can come down on one of them or you can come down in between them. You could say 85/15, by which we'd understand you want something sort of halfway between 80 and 90. A few other issues I just want to assure you about. Title VI analysis was completed on all three of those concepts. We know that there aren't disparate impact problems. Generally speaking, higher ridership alternatives tend to be more advantageous to areas of Title VI concern and low-income areas. It's a good thing to keep in mind. Why is that? Because lower-income people tend to live, on average, with lots of exceptions, tend to live in places where it's easy for high ridership service to get to them. For example, because they tend to live at higher density. Secondly, one of the ways you could interpret a coverage reduction is that it would allow you legally to pull back, reduce the area in which people are legally entitled to paratransit under the Americans with Disabilities Act if they have disabilities. The staff recommendation is that you not do that. The staff recommendation is that you retain the current paratransit coverage area. because the nexus of those two things is, I think would make the plan very difficult to work with. So we do recommend keeping the current coverage area for ADA paratransit service, so nobody's paratransit service is being cut as a result of the plan. I want to remind you, this is a little faint on some of the screens. I guess it's clearer on some of the others. We did this isochrone analysis, which is one of the most powerful ways to describe what a high ridership transit network is doing. And what a high transit, the way we achieve high ridership is by providing greater freedom and opportunity to people, fundamentally. And I want to show you a picture of that, which is, you imagine a person at a hypothetical location. Jane is the every woman who is pictured in this image, and Jane happens to be standing at Mission College. Maybe it's a destination she goes to, or maybe she lives near there. And if Jane is there, those blobs show where she could be on public transit plus walking in 15, 30, 45, or 60 minutes. 15 is the white, 30 is the dark blue, 45 is the light blue, 60 is the pink. I want to emphasize, if she chooses to rely on public transit, this is a map of the wall around her life. This is a map of where she can go, what she can do, what opportunities she can access. If it's not in these blobs, it's not available to her. So we're talking about something much more powerful than transportation here. We're talking about personal liberty and opportunity, and it turns out that by making these blobs bigger for more people, that is how we get more ridership. But I also want to claim that it's another great thing in itself, independent of the ridership it comes from. What it means is we are giving people more access to more opportunities of all kinds. So if Jane lives here, we're drawing a picture of where she could work, where she could go to school, what house of worship she could choose among, whether she gets to choose among grocery stores or can only get to one of them, social clubs she can belong to, she probably will end up marrying someone who is in these blobs because that's who she can get to, right? I mean, it's all of the ways that this limits your life, right? So here's how it changes. Now, a lot changes for Jane just when the new light rail system comes in, but that's what it looks like under Concept 70, so already a big improvement. But now when you go from 70 to 80 to 90, we've just completely transformed Jane's universe, haven't we? We've dramatically expanded what she can do in her life. And I want to argue that that's a good thing, independent of the fact that this will also, of course, get us more ridership because your service is simply useful for so many more purposes. Now, that is one of the reasons to take Concept 90 seriously. It's not, I'm not telling you what you should choose, but it's one of the reasons to see the value in going that direction, despite, of course, the huge coverage gaps that you're getting as a result of doing that. So how many people is that? Obviously, that's just land area. But here's what it looks like in terms of people. Jane can currently, if Jane, let's say a business is located near Mission College, the number of residents who could get to that business as employees or as customers, or maybe it's Mission College itself, students, goes up 46% in Network 70, but by Network 90, it just explodes. 263% more people can get to that location within 30 minutes. And correspondingly, if you live there, the jobs you could get to also double the number of jobs that Jane could compete for in terms of what's available within 30 minutes. So I want to make sure I've told the human story here behind high ridership service, because you're going to hear a human story in defense of coverage, which is that some people depend on low ridership routes which disappear in Concept 90. But I want to make sure there's a human story here too. Ridership is not just bean counters wanting more riders. It's an actual human story about people having access to more liberty and opportunity in their lives. So what did we hear? And by the way, this kind of analysis, and I have in the backup slides, by the way, the same drawings for 10 other locations around the county. If you want in question and answer for me to review them, they're there. But in presentations that we did, in presentations that staff did, we laid out those outcomes for 11 big locations around the county spread around, so that people could be encouraged to think about it that way. So here's what we heard in response. First of all, the outreach efforts that occurred, 12 community meetings, 4 community leader workshops. Those are the ones that I came down to facilitate. where we had invitational groups of key community leaders. Many people from your city councils were there, and many other civic leaders who represent various parts of the community. 15 neighborhood meetings. The website got 104,000 unique hits looking for information about the plan. Over 1,100 social media interactions, 860 email list subscribers, 2,200 online survey responses, 12 blog posts, and 150 other writer comments. A pretty exhaustive effort to hear from everyone who wanted to comment all over the county. So this ridership coverage trade-off has a few different dimensions, and we like to ask people about several different angles on it, so that and to make it more immediate for them. So one of the questions we always ask is, would you rather have infrequent service that goes more directly from where you are to where you want to go, or would you rather have frequent service that requires you to transfer? Now, the isochrone drawings will show you that a frequent route that requires you to transfer usually gets you there faster because the waiting time of an infrequent route is so huge. This is why, for example, and so we wanted to test that sensitivity. And by and large, we got a heavy response that writers understand this, and that a lot of the community actually understands this, that if if a network of frequent lines that require transferring gets people there sooner, they're on board for that. Arguably, a more sensitive one is the relationship with walking, since we know, of course, that different people in the community have very different reactions to walking distance. Walking is very easy for some people and not for others. And but this goes very centrally to how these plans work. If you are on an hourly bus route, but you have a 15-minute bus route half a mile away, the way you get where you're going fastest is usually to ignore the bus route you're on, walk to that other bus route, and catch it, because the short wait outweighs the time the walk will take. Assuming, of course, you're an able-bodied person who can walk in a reasonable amount of time, which not everyone is. So we asked this question: would you rather have a short walk to infrequent service, or would you rather have a longer walk to frequent service? And we get this distribution, which is a lean generally in favor of longer walk with frequent service. I will add that I'm pretty sure I know who is in the far left end of this diagram preferring the shorter walk to infrequent service. Tends to be seniors, people with other kinds of mobility impairments for whom walking is a greater disincentive. I don't want to deny those people exist. They do. They're part of the conversation. But the general response to the whole population is that this trade-off of walking further to more frequent service is one that people are willing to make, at least to a degree. We also asked about a shorter walk to slower service as opposed to a longer walk to faster service. We got the same response almost exactly. So now we bring it down to the big question of asking people where they want to be on the spectrum between Concept 70, which devotes 70% of resources to ridership, all the way up to Concept 90, which devotes 90%. And of course, the percent devoted to coverage is 100 minus that. So it's understandable that we got peaking on the three multiples of 10, because those are the ones we actually drew pictures of. But some people interpolated and said, I like 75 because I'd like to be about halfway between those two. So that's why you have those other little numbers, but they have much smaller responses. Other than that, this is pretty darn symmetrical and pretty darn balanced. And if you were looking at this, you would say, wow, pretty much equal votes for 70, 80, and 90, which would tend to lead you toward 80 if you had to compromise. But now here is where the community leaders were. So in the 4 workshops where I actually had the opportunity to go through a presentation at the same level of detail that you're hearing here, which is, of course, much more thorough than what people may have gotten in a typical community meeting or just from looking at this on the board, they were closer to 85. They came down 85-15. So that's interesting, and that's a thing to know about. It's a difference based on how much information people had, how plugged in they were. And of course, the community leaders also tended to be aware that they were representing other people, as opposed to, ordinary public feedback. So again, just to review the maps: current all-day frequency, concept 70, 80, 90. So an answer to this question is either pick one of these or come down somewhere in between them, you know. So 85, 80, 75, those are all response directions we can work with. But we need this direction because we're now going to draw the final, the recommended plan, and for that plan we have to have a direction about this. We have to know how much of it is supposed to be designed around a ridership goal, how much of it is supposed to be designed around a coverage goal. I want to move on and talk very briefly about Measure B. And this is something that you can choose. We need an answer to that previous question. But this is something you can choose to express a view about or not. We're not asking for a formal decision, but we will be interested in hearing your views. Measure B appears to have passed. Congratulations. It has passed with over 70%, which is an astonishing margin for a transportation measure in California. It provides more money. The slice of it that is for VTA is providing more money for three things: transit service of various different kinds. You'll have a slide in a moment that actually analyzes the ballot language in terms of exactly what was promised. Transit service, low-income fare reductions, and stop amenities. Now, you obviously have a decision coming up about how you want to take the Measure B pie and divide it among all the things that were promised in Measure B. Unfortunately, that decision comes to you too late for us to build the draft network plan around that direction. We can't wait that long if we're going to keep the network plan on track for April board decision for fall implementation. We can't wait for you to have that full conversation about Measure B. So what we're going to do is give you the opportunity, if you want to give us some preliminary direction for our purposes, understanding that we're not binding you to that in any particular way. But let me outline this a little bit. So here's what Measure B says. Here's the exact language of the four passages of the section of Measure B that talks about the funding that comes to VTA. And just for context, we're talking about around $16 million per year that gets ultimately divided up among these various things. Now, the language talks about various different things, but what I've done here is take the elements that specifically promise new transit service in this language, and I've highlighted them in blue. And then I've taken the promises of other things, and I've highlighted them in orange, just so you can see sort of how much of the promises that are being made in Measure B are about service of some kind, you know, which might then be something you want to add to the next network. Right? So the things that are about service are that in the first section, there's an emphasis on mobility services for seniors, disabled students, and low-income riders. And some of that, of course, is probably coverage service, you know, concerns for senior disabled. Some of that is probably ridership. Most students and low-income riders will benefit from high ridership service, the frequent network. Then number two specifically calls out the frequent network and says this should, you know, there should be more service placed into the frequent network in particular. Number three is specifically about infrastructure, improving amenities at bus stops. And then number four talks about new innovative service models to address first and last mile connections. So all of those things I've highlighted in blue are service in one way or another, things that you might either operate or subsidize as part of your regular operating budget. So here are really the things I'd like you to at least think about and sort of tell us if you want to have a view about it. Should we right now include assume that some amount of Measure B?
Interrupt, Mr. Walker. I'm sorry. We have this Measure B discussion on comfortable about us being able to talk. Skip the Measure B discussion.
Okay, all right.
Just to my colleagues, I know we're going to have a much longer discussion about Measure B, and what we'll do is when we have a discussion about information that we'd like to get in the future, this would be the appropriate location for that discussion. So when we get to the end, we'll walk through both. We just have kind of one basic decision to make, but then I'm going to ask if there are requests for information. I have a few of them. Measure B sort of falls more into the information category. So, all right.
Allow me, if I could just clarify one thing then. One of the, what we will be going out to the public with then is a draft plan that does not show Measure B funds going into transit service.
Right.
Because we will not have direction from you in time.
Well, not only that, to be frank with you, the discussion is a little more complex and could happen concurrent, but I don't think it affects necessarily. I think there's a way to do it. We're just not going to do it today because we didn't agendize it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So in terms of how this relates to other activities, I'd like to turn that over to Jim Unitas.
So I just want to briefly talk about some other areas that are tangential to our conversation today about the bus network. And I'll talk about the ones that are up on the board there, except for Measure B. The related efforts, first we want to talk, Jarrett mentioned about paratransit and Title VI, and I want to talk a little bit just more about process. Over the next couple months, we'll be working with the CTA to review the impacts of these different alternatives, or the alternative that we recommend in January, on the paratransit riders. One really good thing about in paratransit, we know what each rider does. We know their trip making, we know where they live, we know where they typically go, so we can assess the impacts of the network on their trip making. We'll bring back some policy options and recommendations to the board that go along with that, and we'll be working with CTA over the next couple of months to develop that. Similarly, the Title VI analysis that Jarrett mentioned, we'll also bring back when we have the draft network in January and then the final network in April. We'll do a Title VI analysis on both of those. We're using a third party to help us with some of that analysis, and that's gone really well, as Jared has mentioned. The other key part of Title VI is really to engage those communities in our public process, and we have a procedure and a way we do that with outreach to the communities, and it's been very successful so far. And as we talk about our outreach plan later in the agenda, you'll see more of that we're going to do. The next few things I want to mention really are other services that are going on in this time frame, and you give the board a heads up on some of the things that we'll be bringing to you as further discussions along the way. The first one obviously is the BART operating plan. BART is looking at how they bring service down to Milpitas and Berryessa. They currently run 2 routes that end at Fremont from Richmond and from Daly City. We've in discussions with them, we've heard that at the opening of BART, they'll only bring one of those lines down into Santa Clara County due to their lack of vehicles, essentially. Their new vehicle order will allow them to bring 2 lines down. So that has impact on how we plan our service at Milpitas and Berryessa. We'll be bringing more information to the board on that as we learn more from BART. They're going through their planning process now, and obviously they're going to have to do their own service planning meetings and Title VI analysis that goes along with all of that. The other thing is the light rail operating plan. There's a map in your packet of the proposed light rail operating plan that we've shown committees before. Important thing about that will be part of all the public outreach when we start doing in January. We'll have discussions about the light rail service and what that means to the community and how the changes go. But essentially, we're trying to beef that network up into a full 15-minute all-day network also, including an important new service from East San Jose, connecting with the BART station at Milpitas, and then going all the way out to Mountain View. So that's a new line of service, not new track, but that's a really important connection for the folks coming off of BART and Milpitas to hit job centers in North San Jose and Santa Clara and Sunnyvale and Mountain View. The last thing is the core connectivity. This is a study that we got funded through MTC, partially funded, to look at other transportation alternatives where a fixed route bus might not be the best option. So this is public-private partnerships. This is doing maybe community shuttles with cities. This is taxi partnerships. This is maybe using some of our excess capacity in paratransit to provide services to other folks that may not be AD eligible. So we're going to have a full report that comes to the committees on this in December because it is part of this discussion that we're having today in terms of what happens in areas where service might be lost, what are opportunities that we might have to provide different kinds of services to folks in those areas. The last thing I want to mention is that with all of this, we're also looking at redoing our public information, our system maps, our time guides. It's all part of our new branding with VTA, but we're also looking at to make it much more user-friendly in the type of theme that Jarrett's mentioned about the frequent network. Because if we can really sort of educate the people about that, potential passengers, current passengers, about how they can use the service better, we think that'll be a big piece of what the ridership improvement that will go along with this will be. I'm going to turn this over now to our fiscal folks. They're going to talk a little bit about fares. We've got a couple slides about what we're looking at with a fare study, and so they'll come up and talk to you about that.
Good afternoon. Raj Srinath, CFO with VTA. To my right is Ali Huda, who's the Deputy Director of Accounting and Budgets. And to my left is Cindy Pollan, who is with 49 Technologies, whom we have retained to help us with the fare study. And with this, I'm going to turn this over to Cindy, who's going to give a brief overview on our fare policy initiatives, which we're looking at, and the timelines.
The impetus for the fare study is exactly what you've just been hearing about with the TRIP and the Next Network program. You're going to see increased need for transfers among VTA services. And we've been asked to take a look at VTA's fare policies with a specific intent of considering how riders will need to use the service in the future as it's restructured, with the goal of increasing ridership and of enhancing VTA's service sustainability. So specifically, some of the areas that we're looking at and will be evaluating in terms of their ridership and revenue impacts include free or reduced price VTA to VTA transfers, so the transfers that will be created among VTA services, whether bus to rail, rail to bus to bus, and so on. And then also taking a look at youth fares. I understand that there's definitely an interest in looking at youth fares, and in particular the kinds of programs that Muni, for example, SFMTA, is offering. And we'll be looking at, again, ridership and revenue impacts of a combination of either reduced or free youth fares. In addition, we've been asked to look at several other areas as well: the community bus fares, fares for low-income riders, how to deliver and price what's currently the EcoPass program, and then also conceivably adjustments to the base fares. Slide. The schedule for the work that we're doing, we're currently in the data collection and preliminary analysis phase of the study, which will go on through December. We'll be back in January to update you on our findings and initial recommendations. and that will flow into a public outreach phase, which corresponds to the public, I believe, corresponds to the public outreach phase for the TRIP network, and then followed by the Title VI analysis, the board, the steps to the board process, and leaving time for implementation sort of in the late October to January timeframe.
That concludes our presentation, and we'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
I'm gonna hold on. I want to talk process just for one more minute before we go to questions. What I want to do, if it's okay with my colleagues, is I'd like to take public comment and then open it up for questions. And then and people can ask any questions they want, but we can start if there are folks who have questions for the fair folks. So just stay where you are, and we'll go through the public comment. I'm going to just invite folks to come up and speak, and you each have 2 minutes, and you don't have to come. What's that? You have more presentation?
I think we can.
Not unfair.
Okay. What was the outreach presentation? For this, which we talked about, actually it was presented at the beginning of Mr. Walker's presentation. Good. Okay. So thank you, though, Jeannie, for she's in charge of keeping me on track. All right. So what I was going to say is if people come up, you can come up in any order. So if you get ahead of someone, don't worry about it. And just introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind. I'm going to invite up Matt Morley and Shani Kleinhaus, Penny Ellison, and Elizabeth Alexis. I don't have a number on her item, but I think this is the same one. And Laura Tolkoff, Michael C., and Roland LeBron. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Morley. I am currently the chair of your TAC, and here today speaking as a Public Works Director for the town of Los Gatos. Just a couple quick points for you. Thank you for the outreach that you've done to date. I'd like to see that continue. I'm sure that it will, given the commitment staff has to that. The outreach is very helpful at the community level. You have great partners in the cities and towns, and I'd like to see that kept up. And encourage integration of Measure B. I know you stopped a little bit on the conversation there, but there are great opportunities to integrate Measure B funds with opportunities within jurisdictions, especially those like Los Gatos, which are on the edge and certainly suspect a bit of a service change. The town is interested in engaging in terms of using those funds for providing services that are important to the town within Los Gatos. That concludes my comments. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name's Penny Elson. I'm a Palo Alto resident. I'm here today sort of wearing two hats, speaking as an individual, first of all, and then secondly, to read into the record portions of a letter that has been submitted to you by the Gun High School PTSA. And actually, this letter is also supported by the Palo Alto Council of PTAs. We work in partnership with the City of Palo Alto on one of the most successful Safe Routes to School programs in the nation. And I am the organizer, the PTA organizer of that program. Profoundly disappointed with what I see in front of you as a recommendation here today. Back in September, the PTSA wrote you a letter basically asking that the 88 bus line be preserved, if anything enhanced, because frankly in Palo Alto we have such a poor level of bus service. I'm a person who walks, bikes, and tries to use transit as often as I can. It's very difficult to use transit in our community because there just aren't enough buses. Hourly headways are inadequate. And, you know, to be perfectly frank, what this will leave us with is basically the 22 and 522 bus lines, which is very nice for San Jose and helps some people in Palo Alto. But our students going to school are using the 88 bus line. We have built our affordable and senior housing along the 88 and 35 bus lines so that we have hundreds of senior residences that presently are served by those two bus lines, and that those lines would be eliminated with the plan that we have moving forward here today. Gun PTSA does a lot of work to support the 88 bus line. We do a ton of marketing work, which I've outlined in a letter that should be in front of you right now if you go to the center section. In addition to doing tons of promotion and marketing work and events to get kids onto the bus, we also, the PTA provides free bus pass scholarships to students who cannot afford to ride the bus.
Wrap up. Thank you.
Suffice to say, we'd like to see the 88 bus line service improved, not eliminated. Thank you.
And I apologize. The reason I'm a little strict on the 2 minutes is just I want to be fair to everyone who comes forward. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Shani Kleinhaus. I will speak under my own hat first, and if I have time, I'll speak under some other hats. My daughter is developmentally disabled, and she lives in Mountain View. She uses bus number 35 to get to her work. Her work is sporadic. She doesn't always have the opportunity to arrange her paratransit because if they have an availability, they'll say, if you can come here and have 3-hour shift, please do. If she takes a 3-hour shift, that's not enough money because it's minimum wage to pay for any other types of transportation except for her bus transit. So I think if I looked at that blob that we saw with Jane, and let's call my daughter Jane for a second, her world will shrink so much that she'll probably stay single. Now I'm going to try, because you suggested that she'll find a husband on that. I'm going to now just speak briefly for the Sierra Club. I'm on the board of directors of it's not board, it's a committee for the Loma Prieta Sierra Club. And one of the reasons why the Sierra Club did not endorse Measure B was potential reduction. I'm reading what I was given. I didn't write this. Reduction of east-west bus service in the North County, or the potential reduction, was one of the several reasons the Sierra Club opposed Measure B. Sierra Club does not understand how dedicated lane VRT could be contemplated with, and at the same time, reduction in 35, 88, and other buses that serve that area. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Also, Jim Stallman and Elizabeth. And if I could, if folks could just line up, and you can come in any order, but go ahead and line up so we make sure we get
Jim Stallman, I live in Saratoga. I'd like you to remember the number 20. Thank you for the budget you passed this last time around. By the end of 2017, we should have the same bus service we had 20 years ago. And if you continue on that slope with your budget, we'll have bus service that matches what the population growth, which has been 20%, in another 2 years after that. So keep on that trajectory, please. And just like to maybe suggest you talk to the neighbors and check out the specifics of the AC Go that was introduced in June. It sounds like AC Transit is rolling out. Well, their slogan is more buses, more often. And just as a taxpayer in this county, we now have 3 half-cent sales taxes that support bus service. We pay the most transit tax in the whole 9 Bay Area counties. And we need our bus service. Thank you.
welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez and directors. My name is Laura. SPUR. Sorry.
Yeah, get right
SPUR is a member-supported nonprofit organization that promotes good planning and good government through research, education, and advocacy. The Transit Choices report published earlier this year was an honest accounting of how VTA system is performing today. It found that the county's population has grown by 10%, but that ridership has dropped 23%. The amount of service decreased by 20% since 2001, even though overall transit spending bounced back after the recession. In addition, VTA's operating dollars are buying fewer revenue hours and is thus less able to serve the changing travel demands and people living and working in the county. Next Network is a promising opportunity to correct these challenges, increase transit ridership, and provide a more seamless experience for riders. We strongly encourage VTA to shift towards a system that offers an 85-15 ridership coverage balance. We understand that this will require hard choices about service priorities, but these choices cannot be avoided if we want to grow transit ridership, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and reduce. We can't afford more projects with fewer results. We also encourage VTA to study the revenue impacts of offering free or reduced price transfers, but not be dissuaded by those impacts. Revenue neutrality should not be a necessary condition for a new fare policy, which will enhance ridership in the long run. As part of the study, we hope VTA will study how its fares could better integrate with other transit operators in the region, particularly neighboring transit providers and regional rail operators such as BART and Caltrain. BART is an inherently regional system, and we should be able to offer a seamless experience by coordinating fares for multi-operators. Thank you for your leadership and for the opportunity to comment.
Before we get started, can I just have a point of order? I think there have been some concerns about whether the agenda was posted 72 hours. I just saw somebody sent an email that the actual one that went up with the agenda item that we're dealing with was posted at like 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday. So
why don't you go ahead and make your comments?
I'll go ahead and make my
And then-
comments. I
and
just
then
want to
at
make
the-
sure that's in the record.
At the end, I'll ask Mr. Fabella to respond.
Here's
to
just
that.
a copy of the printout from the, okay, great. It might explain why there's so few speakers today. Shall I go ahead and get, okay. My name is Elizabeth Alexis, and I'm with Californians Advocating Responsible Rail Design. I'm here today because our work has taught us that there are solutions for places like Santa Clara County with multiple centers of activity in the midst of lower density development. Power. Okay. I attended one of the leadership events where, contrary to Jarrett's summary, we did not have a consensus. This is a slick concept. A bus network should maximize ridership, which leads to an almost certain conclusion. Reduce your network to a couple of lines with frequent service and make leaders like yourselves more comfortable with shrinking transit services. There are assumptions embedded in this approach that are flawed. Moving to an increasingly small network is a decision to move further and further to irrelevancy. A transit network can either be designed as the lowest cost way to deliver a specific service goal or to maximize net social benefit, where riders are not interchangeable. The benefit of transit is to the rider, but also to everyone else. One, more free parking space, less traffic, less pollution. A rider during commute time has more benefit for others, particularly if it means you don't have to expand a road or build a parking lot. The negawatt of travel. This effort that looks at the bus network in isolation, which is not a best practice. For example, it makes more sense to increase Caltrain service during the middle of the day and insist on a regular schedule than to provide additional competing bus service. Are we serious about transit? In Jarrett's world, Jane can compete for more jobs than the status quo, but the best case is an unacceptably low number. There are regions like Santa Clara County that take the same resources and offer world-class transit. My neighbors invented the future yesterday. Let's not settle for this because of arbitrary deadlines.
And we have one additional speaker, and that's Roland LeBron. Come forward. Michael, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Michael Tsai. I'm the founder of South Bay YIMBY, and YIMBY stands for Yes in My Backyard. We support good development and transportation. We do this by educating the public and speaking with public leaders. I'm coming from the city of Milpitas, and many of us in Milpitas during the Measure B debate, we had some concerns that we were kind of getting the short end of the stick, and I hope now that Measure B has passed, I'm personally glad, but we're still kind of worried that we might be left out. So I hope you please pay attention to us, especially with our new leadership being elected. You'll be hearing about Bob Nunez a lot. He's a great guy, and he has important things to say to you once he takes office, and I hope you please listen to that and have better integration with the city of Milpitas. I'm happy to help with outreach for the next network because I believe public transportation should be for everyone and it should be integrated and seamless. Finally, and most importantly, this BART extension is long overdue. I'm really glad to see it happen, but I think it's imperative that we get a new BART district for south of Fremont. I would personally appeal to you, Cindy Chavez. I think you have the leadership to lead that effort to make sure we get a new BART district because otherwise we're just going to get left out. And if this new BART district happens, I think you would make an excellent inaugural director. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what steps we can take to make this happen. But I think this is something we all need to get behind Otherwise, we're all just going to be left out of the BART system, and eventually in 5 years, they're going to be dictating to us, and we're going to be at the end of the line. So please, let's make something happen.
Roland is our last speaker, so if there's anybody here who still would like to speak on the item, please bring forward a card.
And Roland will be brief because he's already had his 2 minutes. What I want to talk about is the 185, which is a new line between Gilroy and Mountain View. And hopefully it'll stop somewhere near the spaceship and the Anza. And that's a complete game changer for the people who live in the south and work in the north. That line is essentially as a foundation for a brand new transit corridor down the 85 corridor. But that corridor will not be able to succeed until we have got fast and frequent connections. So my question to you, and that basically goes back to the point Jared was making, is do we really have to wait for next network 2.0 for things to start happening? Thank you.
All right, seeing no other cards, what I'm going to do now is move to our group here. I wanted to, Johnny, I saw your hand up, but I'm going to start with the mayor because he's going to be leaving.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to clarify the Brown Act. I'm sorry, Rob, do you mind?
So, yeah, I did receive some emails from members of the public today that there was a concern that there was a Brown Act violation on the agenda for this particular meeting. So we did review it and came to the conclusion that there was no Brown Act violation. There was a notice of this meeting that was agendized and made readily available to the public on Monday, which would have been well before the 72 hours. That included the item that was discussed here, along with a Measure B discussion. On, I believe it was Wednesday or Tuesday, I can't remember, there was a deductive agenda that was published that took out the Measure B item, which is why I curtailed that discussion. However, the agenda item that was discussed today was part of the original agendized item as well as the revised agendized item. So we didn't see there to be an issue there. I understand from staff that there was a courtesy notice sent to a certain level of subscriber that was sent out yesterday. That was in addition to what our Brown Act obligations were. So even though that went out, it wasn't done in order to comply with the Brown Act. Rather, it was a courtesy to certain types of subscribers to the VTA. So bottom line is we concluded no Brown Act violation.
Any questions or comments? All right, so Mayor, I'm going to start with you. And
Thank
then
you. And forgive me because I'll have to jump out shortly. I appreciate you calling me. All right. I just want to say first thank you for the presentation. Really appreciate all the information. I can remember a college professor telling me that leadership is about redistributing pain. And all too often we know during tough budget years that's exactly what it's about. And those are very difficult conversations. But, you know, although we're in certainly very good times for the Valley in many ways, as we look at this agency, this is we're facing severe challenges going ahead as we see fare box return decline. We see ridership decline. It is clear that we have to do something dramatic if we are going to make this agency more relevant for the people we aim to serve, particularly those who are transit dependent. And so I do support the staff recommendation, the 8515. I think it is awfully important, though, since we are in the business of redistributing pain, that we also be very mindful that there are winners and losers in all of this. And I'm particularly intrigued by the paragraph on page 5 in the staff report that talks about, this is the middle paragraph there, about how we might think about partnering with TNCs, taxis, and other services with subsidies, public subsidies, that may in fact be less costly than the current subsidies we're providing on buses that are largely empty, heading along routes that are rarely or too infrequently traveled. And so I really look forward to that conversation because I think that's going to be imperative for us in the months ahead to talk about how exactly do we still serve those who do not get a bus route. And certainly I appreciate the staff's recommendation to ensure that paratransit service remain intact. Obviously, all of these are budgetary trade-offs, but that's terribly important, I know, for many folks. But I think how we look at that subsidy of other potential travel modes is going to be important. And I guess the question I'd have, Jared, is do we have good examples in other cities where that's been done effectively? And by effectively, I mean cost effectively.
Do you want to speak to that from the court? Or I can talk about more general experience, whatever you.
Well, yeah, I'll jump in first. Yeah, when we come back to the board in December with this discussion, we've done a lot of work at looking at what has been successful across the country, and so I think we have some good information to report that it has been successful in some cases, and I think we have some options that we can look at that will achieve those objectives. Yeah.
And if I may, Madam Chair, just to address the mayor's question, also just to remind everyone that when we issued the RFP for a paratransit provider, we did ask that the respondents address their ability to provide additional services. The federal government has given us what I would just construe to be a green light that if our paratransit service or vehicles have excess capacity during the time of day, that they can be used for on-demand. So we're looking at all options with the existing assets that we have, and then we'll be looking at some other, it's a sharing economy, so other opportunities, be it bike, rental car, et cetera.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just tie this back to the decision that's before you. As we look at concept 80 or above, generally speaking, the coverage deletions that occur are small enough pockets with sparse enough demand that in my sort of very high-level preliminary estimate, they look like many of them would be good markets for the kind of service you're talking about. Now, that would be, the subsidy you're talking about is not in the pot that we're discussing right now, so that would be Measure B or something else. But it is the coverage gaps that we leave at 80 or above do seem to be generally amenable to that. There is of course an example here in the region in Dublin, where they have replaced an extremely unproductive fixed route with an Uber Lyft. It's not really a partnership. It's actually just they'll subsidize any Uber, Lyft, or taxi trip that satisfies certain requirements. But there's potential there.
Okay, that's hopeful.
Do you have other questions?
Just one last one. I just wanted to suggest.
And I'm gonna make a request. I'm just going to make a request because I know that we have a lot of board members who are going to want to ask questions. So I'm going to ask that the answers be concise and that my colleagues be direct. Not that they usually have a problem with that.
My last, I guess it's just a suggestion, given that what I've seen in Mr. Walker's work is emphasizes the importance of free and or easy transfers. I hope that we don't restrict the free transfers just to Clipper users, and we're not doing that.
Right.
Okay.
The free transfers that were alleged that were presented by the finance division were focusing primarily on VTA to VTA transfer, because right now we do not have transfers.
Okay.
In our system, unless you have a Clipper card. If you have a Clipper card, then you get to transfer. But what we're proposing, and we'll develop this further, and I see Ali wanted to make some clarification, so before I say the wrong thing, go ahead.
To Clipper transfer versus what are the issues that we deal with both from an operational and a financial perspective if it is for everybody, and we'll lay all of those out for you.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to weigh in. I certainly support the staff recommendation.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kamen.
I think the mayor said a lot of the things that I was hoping to hear more about, the partnership, how much it's going to cost. What I would like to see. Okay, what I would like to see is answers on how much it costs us per ride as compared to what it would cost us for a TNC. or any other service. I know with outreach, I could tell you what it is. It's $30. I know that cost per ride. But I don't know what it is on bus lines or light rail. And I would like to know that number before we step into any of these relationships.
Oh, thank you.
Also would like to know how much subsidies that we do give compared to the ride already. I mean, even to the people who are not getting subsidies. I'm talking about the full fare payers, not the subsidized fare payers. So these are the questions that I wanted to pose to get answers. You don't have to answer me now, but in the follow-up discussions, those are the kinds of numbers I like to mull over.
For the fare box analysis.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just if I could, from staff, just have a little bit more clarification about the process on this timeline. I know with the, the 70, 80, 90 options that various bus routes disappeared, and was that sort of like hypothetical, or if we go with 80 or 90, that those are the lines that we're thinking of removing? And if that's the case, what will happen during the community outreach process? Will people be able to make a pitch for particular routes that they think, for whatever reasons, because it's by schools or it's senior housing or whatever, that they'll be able to ask that they be kept in, and what kind of process would that be? And so even though, let's say, we as a board we like the 85% option, is there still time to change it? So whether it's 83 or 87 or you add some other routes, I guess I'm looking for confirmation that what we're going to hear from the public will be evaluated into what our final decision is, rather than them believing that, well, this is a done deal, that route is gone, so why show up?
Excellent questions. I'm going to ask Chris Augenstein to talk a little bit about next steps of what we are going to be bringing back to the board before we even get to the public.
Yeah, so the answer essentially is yes. So there will be at least 2 more bites at the apple. So what will happen is we get direction from you today. Say you endorse the staff recommendation of 8515. We will produce a plan, a draft plan based on that distribution, that 8515. We will bring that back to the board in January. And basically, the action in January will ask you to release the draft plan for public review. Then we'll go out, basically for the next 2 months, we'll go out and do another round of outreach with public meetings, web presence, surveys, the whole plan. There'll be plenty of time for people to comment on the draft plan. We'll be out in communities. We'll be going to meetings that you all are already holding. We'll be present there. We'll be scheduling our own meetings. So there'll be many, many venues for people to comment on. By way of comparison, when we did the last comprehensive operational analysis of 2008, we made roughly 45 or 50 changes to the plan while it was in a draft mode, and put that into the final. So during that outreach period, we'll be gathering all the comments, we'll be making adjustments to the plan, and we'll be coming back with a final draft plan in April. March committee's April board, and that's when you'll have you can take the final action. So there'll be adopt the draft plan in January, 2 months of outreach essentially. The plan gets refined based on that input and based on comments we all hear from you and from our committee meetings. And then the final draft plan comes back for you to adopt in April. And then once you do that, then we go develop the implementation plan and get ready for BART.
I just wanted to add that also in response to your question, when we come back with the draft plan, there will be the options that we're all going to be proposing for how to address those areas that are losing service or are going to have a downsize in the amount of service they receive. We would have, between now and then, we would have had conversations with the city DOTs, and so it's going to be a lot more work that's going to happen between today and that January meeting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I think all of us are very interested in the response to that, particularly service to these other areas. But it'd be interesting, I hope we'll be somewhat flexible on our criteria, that it won't solely be based on ridership throughout the day. because sometimes there's other circumstances that you have to consider. And Mr. Lawson and I well remember when Caltrain was losing ridership. Remember that? We were young in those days. That and it was based really on arrivals and departures at stations, and we fought very hard to keep minimal service available at Bellarmine just because of its location in schools and in the morning and then after school. And Caltrain ultimately agreed to at least have that service rather than cutting out altogether. So there might just be some circumstances where we would want to keep some ridership buses. Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't see you were kind of shy there. The two of you? All right, all right.
Okay, well, we'll pass it back. So I just have a few questions. I was curious, so I attended the leadership group and saw the 70, 80, 90. I was curious, how did we get to 85 as the recommendation? Because I know in the leadership thing where you said where people came out, there were some people in the leadership that would have been at 90.
So staff has a recommendation of 85-15. It's not a consultant's recommendation, but I can talk about sort of the thinking behind it. First of all, the community leaders' convergence point, let me say, the average of community leader responses to this question was about 85. One of the commenters claimed that I said there was consensus. You and I were both at the meeting. I'm sure we know that we wouldn't describe it that way. But when we did actually poll everyone, 85 was the median response. So that's one factor. The other factor is this. When you come out with the draft plan and it goes out to the public, it is very unlikely that in response to public comment you will turn it further toward ridership. That would require, for example, that you say, okay, well, in addition to the routes we had proposed deleting, we're now going to delete some more. It just doesn't happen, right? So I was mindful of the fact that the conversation between draft and final almost always causes it to turn toward coverage, which is a reason to start a little further toward ridership. So those are really the two reasons.
I'm a ridership person in where the numbers come out. On the paratransit area, I know the comment was made of trying to let's keep the existing riders, and I agree in that. But I'd also like to try and look at what is the existing ridership area, so that if there was a new person who needed to be a rider, but they fit in what would have been the old geographic area, because I don't think our criteria should be you signed up in 2016 and now you need the service in 2017 and you wouldn't be covered. So I think in concept of trying to look at what is the coverage area, not just who are the existing riders. There's a slight distinction in that. I wanted to go ahead and put that out there. And then on the fare thing, I'd be interested to understand, it sounds like if we're going to be able to give reduced fares, it's because we've allocated X amount of dollars for that. I'd like to be able to understand that before we get into let's distribute it to this group versus that group to the next group kind of thing. Shaking heads over there, that's good. And then to some of the comments that were made here earlier, I think what we're making is this is a policy decision that we're talking about making today. It is not a route decision. And it's reaffirming, I want to make sure in my words, that's what we're talking about, the same thing that was said before. And then on the idea of transfers, on the VTA inter-service, I think that's really very critical, because as what has been pointed out, as we look at the networks, the network effect and being able to get from one line to another, and if you're having to repay again, then that just alleviates everything we're trying to accomplish. So being able to try and get, you get on once for whatever that trip is, I think is very important for what goes on.
So let's just pick up on the fare one really quickly. I saw the schedule that you have for the fare study. What I was kind of confused about was what are the policy input points to that process? You already have a list of items that you're going to study. And if I'm misreading this, just tell me right now. It looks like April is the first point that you're going to ask the board for policy direction, but yet you want adoption in June.
Actually, there will be, we will be coming to the board with an update on January 5th, where we will lay out a very high-level concept of what our initial review results are. and what the initial range of recommendations are. And then on April, at the budget workshop in April, we will come out with a proposal, and then you would get to adopt it when you adopt the budget in June. So there will be 3 points where the board gets to weigh in from a policy perspective.
Okay, so the January 5th one is probably kind of critical because that's where some of the big course level trade-offs are going to be made. Okay, so I'm good with that.
Well, let me.
Please.
Right. I just wanted to also share with you all that at the December board meeting, where I'm going to do my annual report, we will be presenting you all with a placemat that shows, overlays this process of the next network with our budget process so that you can clearly see the crosswalks, decision points, the milepost that will then spur further conversation. We're going to include everything from outreach to board presentations to decision-making meetings. And I think that would help, given that we need to understand what the budget implication is of whatever it is that we end up proposing and making a decision on.
Right. And a key reason why the schedule for fairs is slightly different from the schedule for adopting the next network is that there are significant budgetary implications to the fair actions, and that's why when you would be adopting the fair changes along with the budget.
Go ahead. Here's what I was going to say. A couple things. One is, I recognize that we're talking about one very big piece of the organization with a bunch of other pieces not linked up for everyone today. And I think what Nuria is saying is that in December, we're going to, as part of that meeting, we're going to make some linkages that we weren't able to make today. But the second thing, and this is a recommendation to staff, that board update should be changed to have board input. Because update is you telling us what you're doing, and if the board wants to take an action, I want them to be able to give direction. So whoever's magically in charge of that, please fix that. Because I think the point is important because 2 months is really not enough time to get yelled at by people.
Yes, consider it.
And we need the public to be able to weigh in. All right, so Howard, keep going.
The first 3 seconds I was good. So just a question. So now back onto the 85 versus 80 versus 70. Palo Alto kind of brought it up. I know we look at the routes in terms of total ridership, and it was brought up by Glenn, I believe, as well. There's sort of an instantaneous ridership, which I'm not sure how we address that in the analysis. So if the 88, for example, is serving a high school, you would expect a fair number of riders at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and you'd expect no riders at 10 o'clock. How was that factored in when we actually decided the 88 would disappear between the 80 and 90 plan?
So one of the things we look at carefully, and this is very common on low ridership areas, is that often the only reason a route will have even the productivity it has is because it's fantastically busy on 2 trips when the schools are getting in and out. And so in those cases, what we assumed was that the school trips would remain. But once you have taken out those school trips, now you have an extremely unproductive route, right? Because the ridership on the rest of the day is so low. And so generally speaking, I want to be clear that where there is a significant high school or school demand that is not on these routes as you see them drawn, there would be school trippers there for that. We don't design all-day services around schools because they don't generate all-day demand. But the schools are still being taken care of.
South County may have some of the same issues for commuters. So the west side, north side, South County, right, we're the ones who will lose a lot of infrequent options. The paratransit, Glenn's notes a geographic area. I'm hopeful that we can still accommodate that, because if you just looked at the rules and you eliminate all those infrequent lines, that eliminates a huge area of paratransit. So I had that concern. And I want to note, and I'm not sure what the answer is, there is absolutely nothing shown on Highway 85 for a transit option. And the Highway 85 Policy Advisory Board, while it appears to be going a little slow, is somehow working on that.
Let me just respond to that. 85 has express service, and express service isn't shown on any of these maps. So the peak commuter express services were just not part of this plan, which is why you don't see them. but they're there.
Okay, then that answers that question. They will remain.
Thank you. First, I wanted to ask a question. In South County, I represent the South County cities of Morgan Hill and Gilroy on the board as an alternate today. There are changes between current and 70% for South County as I see them on the map. Maybe, Garrett, you could just mention what those are really quick, or correct me if I'm not catching that right.
And I think I want to respond also to a point that Supervisor Yeager raised also, which is how specific are these drawings? The answer is they're not all that specific. We want people to view these at a high level to illustrate the kinds of impacts. But we are going to go back through in response to your recommendation and fine-tune all of these to try to get as much coverage as we can out of whatever coverage share you authorize, and as much ridership as we can out of whatever ridership share you authorize. So don't assume that these are the last words. Several people have commented on these and described them as proposals. They aren't proposals. You'll see the first proposal in January. These are just illustrations of the trade-off. So in terms of what we have here, there's the existing system. Looks like there is a frequency cut in Morgan Hill, isn't there? Just getting to that. And then there's a redesign of Gilroy that replaces a number of inefficient routes with one hopefully more efficient route. But again, we're going to go back over all this.
And I asked the question because you made the statement that current and 70 were exactly the same except for the Fremont lines.
They have the same. No, they're not exactly the same design. We went through and looked at other things that we could improve. But they do have the same ridership coverage split. Right.
I do want to comment on that Morgan Hill issue, though. The route that we have in Morgan Hill is exactly like one that Jarrett just described, where we get high school ridership and basically no ridership the rest of the day. So as we're looking at how we continue to provide school service, that's in our mix.
So that's in a line that basically is almost an east-west line across our little valley in Morgan Hill. But I'm guessing we probably have very similar problems with our north-south routes that connect Morgan Hill or all of South County to the rest of the job centers in Santa Clara County, and that they probably have high ridership in the morning and high ridership in the evening, but little to no ridership during the day. So when you average out the line, it looks like a line that has poor ridership.
Well, actually, the 68 line, which is the current route from Gilroy, Morgan Hill, downtown San Jose, does really well all day long. Of course, it's more peaked, but because it is the main line travel from those destinations, it does pretty well. And I think all of our plans, we're maintaining very good service levels on it.
And I see that's why it stays throughout all of the sort of concepts that we're looking at. Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about Jane, if I could. I noticed you did travel isochrones for Jane in Gilroy. They don't change very much, even with the loss of service. I'm guessing a good amount of that has to do with Jane's walkability?
It has to do with a couple of things. It has to do with the fact that, with all apologies to Morgan Hill and Gilroy, it costs a lot to go those long distances and to those communities. And so it's very expensive to make big changes in levels of service out there because, what the 68 is a very long drive to serve, a couple of communities. And so I think that when you see not a lot of change from one scenario to another, it has to do just with the fact that we're having, we have very high service costs for relatively few people compared to the rest of the county. So yeah, I'm sorry that I can't show more of a transformation for Gilroy than for Morgan Hill.
Well, I'm not looking for more of a transformation. I was suggesting that I assumed, looking at this, that going from current to 70 to 80 to 90, that Jane's reach would actually decrease, not grow, because the service decreases so much.
Yeah, that does happen to a degree.
So again, I'm guessing that the reason why it doesn't change very much at all has more to do with her walkability than her ability to be on transit.
Well, here's what it's doing. Actually, a lot of the existing services are so infrequent, and we count waiting time as part of these travel times. So if you're on an hourly bus, we count you waiting half an hour on average. Well, think about where you can walk in half an hour in Morgan Hill. So essentially, the reason she hasn't lost very much is that the bus just went to places that she could walk to in that time anyway.
Right, exactly. So thank you. On the paratransit issue, I want to make sure that I second what Glenn said about paratransit. It has to be tied to existing service areas and not to existing riders, or South County will have no paratransit service whatsoever. We absolutely have to keep an eye on that and stay on that. The mayor, before he took off, talked about a certain part of the memo talking about different types of service and innovations that we can use. I agree. I'm supportive of that. But I want to really look at how that works, particularly in an area like South County. I'm concerned that in an area like South County, that's actually going to be much more expensive, and the affordability of an option like that really isn't going to be there. Which, in addition to that, and what, Garrett, you just said about South County, leads me to perhaps my final point, in that I don't think we can take these broad brush approaches of different concepts and apply 70% to the entire county, 85% to the entire county. There are places in our county where we may need to look at different percentages based upon how they connect, based upon how the North County connects with the central part in South County, based upon the way that South County connects to the rest of the county. It may not be as easy as saying 85-15 in South County. That may be too different, because what it really does is just completely disconnect South County from the rest of the county. And unless we want to pour resources that the state should be pouring into Highway 85 and just assume that everyone's going to be in their cars coming out of South County, that we are eliminating options instead of growing ridership when it comes to certain parts of the county. So I'm not sure that you've looked at it in sort of those terms. I know many months ago when you and I spoke on the phone, we talked about that a little bit, but I'd like to see how we can explore that as well, that it's not just one county service area that we're talking about, but perhaps there are 4 or 5 different service areas that may need some tweaking, some different kinds of percentage overlays based upon how those areas relate to the rest of the county in service.
Let me just assure you that when we say that there's going to be a county-wide split, that's the sort of thing that a county-wide agency needs, right, to have a sense of its consistent policy across the region. But when we're down at the level of network design, it's not 85, if it's 85-15 countywide, that doesn't mean it's 85-15 in every community. We are creating that variability that you're asking for as we look closely at the needs of each community and at the opportunities that each community's geography presents. So I think that although, yes, the number you're being asked to adopt today is inevitably a county-wide average and a county-wide policy, I think you'll see when we bring up the draft plan in January that it's very, very sensitive to how individual communities are different and how their needs for connectivity are different.
I appreciate that, and it still needs to be said, because I still have great concerns about that, particularly when I look at the difference between a 70, an 80, and a 90 concept plans, and even the thought that if we move forward with an 85-15 and we tweak them for certain areas, getting Morgan Hill to 83 isn't going to make a difference. Keeping Morgan Hill at 70 would make a difference. That's a big change from 85 to 70. Our service cuts start at the 70% level.
And again, I just want to clarify, if you analyze the networks already that are designed, they are not that same split in every municipality. There's inevitably variations from one municipality to another. But it is just the countywide average that comes out that way. Okay. So don't feel when you adopt a countywide number that you are adopting that number for your city necessarily. There will be more variation in it.
Okay, good. I look forward to seeing that as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to move to this side because I think Magdalena's good. And I just wanted to make a quick time check. We told people the meeting would be over at 4. I think this is a really important discussion, so I don't want to cut it short. I just want to do a time check with folks. Are we okay at 4:15 with it? Okay, I just want to lose a quorum. All right.
Thank you. So one of the things, with a lot of the comments that we got initially, the biggest bunch of comments was from people in the Palo Alto community. And a question, I know we're going to be looking at alternative things, but I know as a former school board member in the school district that probably does more busing than anybody, most districts in the county, I'm just kind of curious if why the Palo Alto School District, if the vast majority of the riders of that bus, why they're not addressing that issue. And so then one of the comments when somebody, one of the commenters talked about, like, by eliminating lines and focusing on ridership, are we just kind of like, are we on a way to eliminating the bus system? And I had some other, it seems like the phrase that a couple other totally unrelated to transportation have been using to me lately has been the death spiral. So I'm hoping that, or is VTA staff really looking like long-term as we look at, like, San Jose has their urban villages plan, when I know in our city, when we're looking at areas where we're going to be doing, hopefully, or perhaps doing significant housing development, are we already looking at, 15 years from now, where the people are going to be, and that at that point, will we be able to add bus lines in to serve those people? I mean, is that at all kind of on the long-term vision?
Absolutely. Our vision is at 2040, and we're taking it to 2045.
Okay, so we're thinking about that, so that as we perhaps change the mode of how we've been developing that, our transportation plan will be developing also. And so one of the things, as a former express bus rider, I know that's not included in here, but obviously some of the commute issues that we have in our cities are very much like, north to south or east to west to get to the job centers. Is there going to be a review of the express bus plan coming? So if it's not part of this, so is that coming?
Yes, exactly. It's coming next. Once we get through this study, we're going to start on the express bus study.
Okay, so then I'll just quickly weigh in. Yes, I'm very favorable on having a more robust transfer system. And the other thought that occurred to me is that I know that Mr. Walker had mentioned I think back in the spring, that Santa Clara County seemed to be a county where we had more midday riders than we have seen elsewhere. So I was kind of wondering if that thought is factoring into, like, when we traditionally think of a lot of early morning, late afternoon, early evening, when we look at what this network's going to look at, like, how does that midday factor play in?
It's really fundamental. We did find that on average, your buses are not at their fullest on the peak. It's very close, but they're actually at their fullest at about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, which is not quite the afternoon school peak either. It's just sort of the part of the midday that tends to be busiest. You have to remember always, when we're thinking about the peak, that the standard commute peak for the 8 or 9 in the morning to 4 or 5 in the evening tends to be relatively more affluent than the population as a whole. Lower income people are least likely to be commuting at that time. They're more likely to be commuting all over the clock. If you think about when lower wage jobs are, they're in the service industries of all kinds. They're all over the clock. And by the way, they're all over the weekend. And one of the other things we're trying to do here, by the way, is make more of a move into the weekend. I don't think that the existing budget permits us to continue the weekday service level all the way across the weekend, but I would love to. When we did that in Houston, we got an explosive ridership response. And it's the same thing. So many people out there are commuting 5 days a week, but those days include the weekend days. So those are just some things to keep in mind about the relative role of the peak.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some said that the 8515 plan is a selective transit plan, not a public transit plan. What is your answer to that?
Depends on what you mean by public. It is as you move toward ridership, you get more people on the buses. You're serving a higher percentage of the population at the expense, though, that you're not serving everyone you serve now. it's up to you what the word public means in that context, but that's the trade-off. A higher ridership network does mean more people using the service, more people benefiting the service, more people, therefore, having, valuing the service in the context of their lives. That's part of what you get. But yes, the downside is that some places you serve now, you don't serve, and relatively small numbers of people who are riding there don't have service. So it comes down to what you mean by a public service. But yeah, I certainly understand the point of view that says a public service ought to be there for everyone, no matter where they are. That's just a very expensive thing to do with public transit.
So what is our goal here? To increase ridership or to improve public transit?
Well, the question before you is whether to focus on increasing ridership or on focusing more on coverage, which I think is what you mean when you say public in the sense of being there for everyone who needs it, like a public service. That is the question that's before you, is that trade-off.
Do we have any plan or solution to improve public transit for all?
I think the issue we've been talking about is that if you choose a number 80, 85 or below, this wouldn't be true if you went to 90, but at 85 or below, we think the coverage gaps will be small enough that those become interesting, logical places to trial other kinds of demand-responsive services like subsidies for Uber, Lyft, taxi kinds of services that can provide basic access into those areas. And I think that, and since Measure B specifically calls that out as one thing to look at, and you have the core connectivity study, that seems obviously to be a way to fill in those gaps if you choose to go to 80, 85 or above.
So talking about Measure B, how can you explain to the public that the Measure B bring more monies to the public transit, and now we have to cut some of the service to the population? I see. Yes, all right. So is the 85 and 15 plan a short-term solution?
I think it depends to a great deal on what you decide about Measure B, and unfortunately we can't make that decision today. But that will have the decision you make about that will have an effect on the story we can tell to the public about the plan. I mean, those things are connected. I would say, from what I know now, that if you go forward with the innovative services category of investment that Measure B calls out, then I think the story to the public would be not we are cutting all service here, but we are looking at other demand-responsive, innovative ways to provide basic access to these places that are where fixed route bus service is not working well. So I don't think you would characterize it as a service cut, although in that case, certainly, people will be unhappy about the service changing and it won't be as useful to some people as it is now.
So for long-term solution, do you think that if we give free public transit, it will increase the ridership?
I'll defer to the fare experts, but yes, there's no question that turning down fares, if you can afford that, turns up ridership. It doesn't get you enough ridership to pay for the cost of the reduced fare, but it does certainly get more ridership if that's your goal.
So is that our goal, is to provide a free public transit in the future for long-term solution?
I'll defer to whoever wants to argue.
I have to say that I think we need to give the fare study an opportunity to do all of the research and for the finance and budget team to come back, which they have committed to do on January 5th, before we start to go down a road of presenting alternatives that our budget and our fiscal condition may or may not be able to absorb.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
If I may, Madam Chair, very quickly. The board has investigated this several times in the past and will be happy to do so.
Okay, so just real quick, I think, we've covered a lot of things here, and I wanted to make sure I was going to try and summarize what I think I heard. So first of all, everything up to this point, the 70, the 80, and the 90, are nothing more than conceptual ideas. And unfortunately, when you're doing conceptual ideas, it means you saw some things kind of disappearing and such, because that's the only way you can demonstrate a point. But more importantly, what we're trying to do now is move from conceptual to a specific proposal. And the specific proposal that we're trying to get to is going to identify those routes that a change needs to occur. And I know, Mr. Walker, you tended to use the term disappear. And I guess what I'd like to do is clarify that disappear only means disappear as we know it today. But the reality that I'm hearing from this discussion is, yes, we may have some of those that truly do disappear. We will have those that will be met in a different way. Okay, and then we have those that also may alter how we're doing them, so that, for example, the ones that are brought up, like the Route 88, there's more than just Route 88, that is a school type of thing, where we're going to get more efficiency and maybe keep the route there, but we're getting efficiency by not running it all day long. So the bottom line, I think, here is we don't know, and that what I'm expecting that we're going to get back in January is something that's going to let us know what that map looks like, and hopefully we'll do at least addressing those routes that are going to be altered one way or another, whether it's an extreme elimination to just a new mode or new solution set, that we're going to have a clear understanding of that in January. And I emphasize that because if we don't, when we move into the public review now, we've got to figure out how we're moving away from not my route, eliminate somebody else's but not mine. So we're going to have answers to those. And so I'm hearing that we will have that by January. And then the other thing is, I'm hoping in January as well, we're going to kind of at least get an idea of the financials on some of this. By that point in time, there's the forbidden topic in terms of Measure B, but beyond that, when we're starting to alter these, what we're going to be looking at in terms of more money becoming available as a result of some alteration in what's being dropped from the current mode of operating. And so I'm hoping that we're going to see some of that. I think from the public point of view, again, if they look at staff report where Mayor Liccardo started us on page 5 under core connectivity, I think that's probably, those 3 paragraphs are probably the most important paragraphs in the entire staff report in terms of trying to address the fear that we have. So I'm inclined to, I'm going to do the same thing that Sam, I'll be the last one here, but I'm also inclined to support the staff's proposal.
So what I want to do is I'm going to make just a couple of comments and make some recommendations about how we proceed, and then if one of my colleagues wants to make a motion after that, I would be appreciative of it. First, that on slide 39, and this is all of the related efforts, I want to make a request, and that is that a refined timeline, the implications of each of these areas on the discussion we're having relative to Next Network, the nexus and the opportunities be explained to the board prior to any final decision being made. And that includes at our next board meeting, so in a couple of weeks, that we at least begin with the tabletop, the placemat document that our general manager is referring to, because, period. I think we all understand why that's important. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Second, we've had an intellectually challenging conversation today because we are talking about assets of one kind disconnected from resources to the institution. The history and discussion that went into the ballot measure is very long, and we will not discuss it today, but from my perspective, that is an item that will need to be agendized in the coming months so that we can have a more, again, intellectually honest and robust discussion about the future of the agency. And because of that, I'm going to request that we get an analysis from staff that takes a look at the last maybe 3 ballot measures that we've had, and any policy or board actions that have been taken related to level of service for buses. And the importance of that is that we're having discussions about what's available and what's not available. And the reality is that we have a large institution that's got a lot of moving parts, but we should at least make sure we understand what past commitments have been made and what the implications are for the future. So that would be just one other thing, and I think that can come in January, but it really needs to be completed. This issue around core connectivity, I'm gonna raise an issue with my colleagues that I've raised with you in the past, but I think this is very important. We very specifically did something new and different with the paratransit contract to try to better understand what role the public agencies can play in in the idea of connectivity and mobility solutions. And the significance of that is as follows from my perspective. We have assets and resources that belong to the public. Paratransit buses are an example. When they're not in service, if that's an opportunity for us to continue to provide service, we need to look at all of those assets in a much more rigorous way. And we need to look at locations for new types of service that can be demand model that paratransit could do potentially. The paratransit could do. So I don't want us to ignore the role of the public sector in protecting the private sector, the interests of the public. So very specifically what I mean by that is that when we look at that institutions that have become public-private, and we allow a private institution to run them, and the public being in the back seat, it gives flexibility. For example, airports. We put a lot of public dollars in airports initially to get them built up. We have partnerships with the airlines. People don't yell at us about the cost of what it costs to fly because these are private industries, and that's fine. I'm going way back in history in terms of what San Jose did to build its airport. And in some ways that gives us an excuse that it's not our, we have a private sector partner and they need to make a certain amount of money. I want to encourage us to think very critically before we engage in those partnerships that will result in higher fares and do result in business opportunities for our private sector partners, but just as easily could impact the stability and sustainability of this institution. Because if we believe that we need to continue to invest resources in public institutions that can provide these services, then we need to think about that in the long run for VTA. So when I look at the connectivity portion, I'm thinking about business lines of opportunity and business partnerships that the public sector could have with the public sector. For example, us with the school district. Us with, well, let me just get to one other public partner. The other thing I'm interested in understanding is if we're going to be increasing access to Caltrain, ACE, and BART, how does that impact the agreements we currently have with those institutions? Because their ability to sustain themselves with ridership is better than our ability. And I just think all of that needs to be considered over the long run. Not necessarily by the time we make this decision, but just as we think about it in the future. So those are some requests for information that I would appreciate if the maker of the motion could include, and I'm happy to work with staff to refine them. So do we have a motion to be made?
Okay. I would like to go ahead and move staff's recommendation for the 85-15 balance that was done My personal choice would be to go to 90, but I'll go the 85-15, including the recommended pieces of requested information you asked for.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. So we have a second. Do we have any discussion on this motion? Any further information? Larry. Back to you, Glenn.
Thank you. I will be voting against the motion, not because I don't believe in what we're trying to do, and not because I don't believe that we're trying to move, and I am supportive of trying to move more towards a ridership versus coverage a recommendation, trying to move there. But I'm not yet convinced that within certain areas of the county, South County, West Valley area, that by isolating these areas that we can actually increase ridership. I haven't been convinced of that yet. I'm hoping that the information that we've all asked for between now and January, and as we continue these discussions into early next year, that those kinds of things will come out. But for the purposes of what we need to do today, I'm going to vote against the measure. I'm also going to ask that we do a lot more specific outreach in South County, and I will personally make sure that I'm involved in that and help with doing that and involving my colleagues in Gilroy, so that the South County community can better, so that we can bring the South County community along into supporting a model that is more based on ridership as opposed to.
Thank you, Larry. Glenn, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Yeah, no, I just want to make a quick comment of the reason why I made the motion and what I think we're trying to accomplish here, that today's vote is a policy direction vote to staff to do some additional work. It is not a final decision that we've said, here, this is the answer of what it's going to be. And I think it allows the opportunity for some of these questions to be answered, but I don't think we can try and get answers to your questions without voting yes on this particular item, because otherwise they're not going to have the direction of what to go ahead and do. So with that, maybe I could get you to change your mind. I just want also to say on the paratransit question of being able to use it for other services, I think that's fine and great. But first, before we would say we have assets to be used, let's make sure we have a really great paratransit service and that we don't have people coming and saying there's issues and challenges before we potentially cite the service.
You're 100% right, Glenn. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And that's probably it's in the RFP, and we're not trying it today. So any comments on the motion?
Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody why we're doing this is because our ridership is down dramatically. Our fare boxes are down dramatically. We thought that we needed to study how to improve ridership and, fare box recovery. Even with all the money that's coming in, I mean, we're heavily subsidized from federal government, local government, state taxes, local taxes, and we still can't. And our numbers are still going down. That's why we're doing this, and I think we needed to experiment to do something, and that's why I'm supporting this. I think a lot of the pictures affect my district more than anybody else's that I've seen. I mean, it looked like my district only doesn't have anything. I'm willing to look at it, and I'm willing to do what is necessary to make sure that people think that they can go from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time. And if that works, fantastic. If it doesn't, we could change it later on. And I'm also excited about the opportunity to look at other ways to connect people, including looking at TNCs and all the other models that we looked at with using paratransit's excess capacity. So I'm excited about it only because I think we need to do something to shake things up, and I'm hoping that everybody will support this.
Any other comments? Okay, so I'm going to call the question. Do we need to do a roll call vote? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposition? Two oppositions? Two in opposition, sorry. Any abstentions? All right, and that passes. So we'll be reaching back out the next meeting. We're going to have an update in December and then a bigger meeting in January, and we will work on community outreach and notification. One last item. Are there any announcements that anyone has on 4.1? Seeing none, let me thank the public for coming out and speaking, all of you very, very much, the staff for the very thoughtful work, and also to all of you. Have a good evening, everyone.